Hello and welcome back to our next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be covering a time period in art known as Surrealism. Surrealism is classified as being something that is better than real or more than realistic, and it is usually classified by things like this, where it's artworks that actually make you think. They're a little bit different than any artworks you've seen before. It really makes you question what's going on in the artwork. Artworks are meant to distract you from reality or make you think that it's in a different sort of reality. So for instance, in this artwork, you can see that it's a painting, the whole thing is a painting, of a painting of a painting. So it's kind of, it makes you think. Surrealism, it does that. It really makes you step back and look at the artwork and think, wait, what? And that's what Surrealism was meant to do. Now, to better understand Surrealism, you have to understand the history behind the Surrealism and the time period that it came from. There's a lot of things going on in the early 20s. The major thing that happened in the early 20s was the end of World War I. And up to that point, it was the bloodiest war in Americans' history. We had more casualties then than ever before, and it wasn't just us, it was the entire world had casualties. In fact, that's why it was called World War I. All of these countries here were a part of World War I. And not only that, the total casualty rate for World War I was 40 million. And with a population of 1 billion at the time worldwide, that means that 4% of the world's population was casualty of war. And the reason why this really hit home for a lot of people and was a devastating time, not only for the casualty rate, but during this time, there was a big boom in inventions. Things were being invented and came up with all the time, and there's always new things to push us forward into the new age of development. And there's so many neat things that happened. For instance, the full-size submarine was invented. People could travel under the water. No longer did they have to travel above the water. They could travel under the water. That was awesome. Machine guns and flamethrowers were invented to try to level out forested greenery to make room for other civilizations. Then you had the invention of the airplane. That was amazing. You could just jump on an airplane and fly through the air and go somewhere else that normally it would take you weeks, if not months of traveling to get to, and you could just jump in an airplane and fly over there. It was so neat. And then you had boats that could house planes, and you could actually take planes and land them on a boat in the ocean, refuel, and take off and keep on going. So aircraft carriers were invented. There's so many amazing inventions that was going on. Then all of our hopes and dreams got dashed because these great inventions that were supposed to push us forward into a better future ended up starting a war that was the worst war we'd seen in our entire history. And that's when Surrealism started, because at the time there was a lot of bad things going on and a lot of people needed an escape. They needed something to get their mind off of what was going on around them. So enter Surrealism. Surrealism happened not really as a cause but more as a solution. Surrealism happened because we needed something like Surrealism to happen. We needed to be distracted from what was going on in reality. And that's what Surrealism's purpose was. It can be described as odd or illogical or irrational or disturbing because you look at it and you can recognize what's going on and it makes sense, but at the same time you think, what? Because, for instance, Magritte's artwork right here, you can see that it's an eye that is staring at you, or is it staring into space, or is it staring into the sky? Because you can see the sky reflected in the person's eye. Are they seeing the world around them? Are they looking at the sky, or are you looking into somebody's eye and envisioning the sky? It's very weird kind of stuff, but it makes you think, and that's the purpose behind of it. Now, some characteristics of surrealism. Chaos. That's a very common theme in surrealist artwork. Chaos. It doesn't make sense. It's just crazy stuff. And a lot of times it's influenced by dreams. It can be things that are an impossible scale. For instance, you could have a ladybug the size of a house. That would be surreal. You could have double images or juxtapositions, such as two things that normally don't go well together. They go well. Like, for instance, a person in a fish bowl and a fish standing outside looking at it. That would be surrealism. All those different things are very characteristic of the surrealist style. So, some of the artists that we mainly associate with surrealism, Max Ernst, Salvador Dali, and Magritte. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few artworks and we're going to look at this and we're going to kind of discuss what's going on with it. So I want you to go ahead and look at this artwork and tell me what you think looks odd about it. Well, right away, there's several things that I can point out. For instance, the guy's nose is sitting in his pipe. That's strange. But then you also notice that there is a candle that's kind of slithering down the candlestick like a snake. It's weird. And he's also looking at you. Very strange. He's just like, what are you staring at? It's like, this is normal for me. That's surrealism. It's things that you can see. You can tell. You can tell that's a guy. It's just not a random shape out of nowhere. It's a guy. But there's something odd about it. Then you also have this. In this artwork, obviously they're men, but they have the heads of chickens or pigeons or something. See, it's things that you can relate to, like the man, with something odd going on with it, like the chicken head. Salvador Dali's probably most famous painting, The Persistence of Memory. There's lots of stuff going on here, and we've covered this before. This artwork is, it's very iconic. So the melting clocks, surrealist, you can't do that. Clocks don't melt like that. You got the melted face, again, can't do that. There's lots of things going on. And the last one I want to look at is this. And there's lots of strange things going on here. And all of this stuff you can recognize. It's just in odd places, which makes you think, what's going on? It's like you can tell these are people. They're men, and it's raining men. That's what it is. It's raining men. And if you notice, you can tell these are windows, but I don't think there's ever going to be a house with a window like that in the roof. I mean, it makes no sense, but it's there. Okay, so let's get to your assignment. Your assignment, we are going to be creating your very own surrealist artwork. And we're going to do this in a style of art known as collage. And I'm sure that you know what a collage is. You've probably covered this in elementary school. A collage is when you take pictures or newspapers or magazines or something like that, and you cut them out, you rearrange them, and you glue them down on a piece of paper. Now, in my classroom, I typically give students either a 9 by 12 piece of paper or a 12 by 18 piece of paper to glue their stuff down to. If you're at home and you're following along, you don't have to do that. If you have a piece of construction paper or computer paper, you can very easily put it on there as well. I'm not too picky. Also, if you're at home, A good source that you can use to cut up is old magazines. Of course, ask your parents first. Typically, your parents will probably get a magazine in the mail that they did not subscribe to, or a book or something that they didn't want, so you could probably use that to cut it up, or a newspaper when they're done reading it. But again, as always, ask your parents first before you do that. You don't want to cut up stuff that they're actually using. And then, once you get your images cut up, you want to try to arrange them in a way that is going to look surreal. So, what I mean by looking surreal, you need to think about things that you recognize and then how you can change it just a little bit to make somebody look at it and go, what? Kind of like this. Examples could be changing the scale of objects, so having a car the size of an entire living room, or having bugs the size of people. So you could have a picture of a person right here, a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden you have this giant bug and it looks like it's about to like climb over top of them. That is surreal. Another option, you could reverse the order of natural things in the universe. For instance, people walk dogs. Well, what would happen if a dog was walking a person? That's a possibility. You could mix up internal and external spaces. For instance, most people don't have a tree growing in their kitchen. I mean, you could add one in there if you wanted, but most people don't have it. Or you can transform objects into other objects. For instance, turning a car into a fish. That would work. Have the front half of the car be a fish. That might work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you some examples. And for our Spanish reading audience, I have that right up here. You can go ahead and pause it. But I'm going to go ahead and show us some examples. So this is a student example of New York as cell phones. Cell phones and iPods and things like that. The billboards are actually the cell phones. It's really neat. Neat concept. And it's actually not that far off from what New York actually looks like. Okay, this is another example. This is strange, to say the least. But you can see that you have people diving off of somebody's hand into a glass that is full of the ocean. Now this one, I like to show it because the student, I think, was being a little funny with his artwork, and he was just kind of like, I'm going to throw this together, and it ended up being really good. So obviously that is a catfish. It's a cat and a fish makes a catfish. That's a man baby. That is a baby armadillo. That up there in the top corner is a cat driving a car. And then we got George Lopez over there on a cat's body. I don't quite get that one, but it's surrealism. And now I want to show you an example of something that you don't want to do. And I always have students do this. If you don't understand what surrealism is, just ask me. Okay? I will be more than happy to explain it. But this is not what you want to do. Now, you may notice that on the rubric, I say that you need to fill in the artwork and make sure that it's full. That doesn't mean fill in every single individual space. Okay? This makes no sense whatsoever. There's no cohesive atmosphere here. There's nothing going on. It's just a bunch of random pictures glued down on a piece of paper. That's it. That's not what you want to do. Surrealism is not random. Surrealism is things that you recognize that's kind of put a different perspective on it. It's turned what you thought upside down. It's not just a bunch of random stuff on a piece of paper. Actually think about what you are going to put on the paper. And that's your assignment. You're going to be creating your very own surrealist artwork. You're going to be using images that you find in magazines. You're going to be using images you find in newspapers. Things that you can cut out and glue down. Make it surreal. Make it different. Do something that is different, that makes people actually think. Something that couldn't normally happen. For instance, well, over here, the catfish. cat's head, fish body. That's a good example. Do something that's original. Make it fun. Make it unique. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to continue with our lessons, you can subscribe to our channel. I do plan on uploading all the lessons I typically teach in class over the next couple weeks. So, till next time, thank you all very much. Have a great day.